I would imagine that one of the I don't know, issues that you guys deal with is, when it comes to unrealistic expectations, there's probably more on the side of the adults, the bigs, than there are with the kids.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And adults often expect to come in and kind of be seen automatically as kind of, wonderful and, the fairy godmother, fairy godfather, whatever. And then when the child doesn't immediately respond, because I would imagine a lot of these kids have trust issues.
Right.
And so you really have to work, you guys have to play shrink a bit with a lot of your volunteers.
Right. Yeah, I can sum up the child's expectations pretty quickly. Show up, tell me the truth, and care about me. And you'd be amazed. They don't think they're going to come back. They don't think they're going to be honest with them. And they don't think they care. What's so amazing about this, though, is that it's really hard to look at an adult that's come and seen you once a week for the first couple of months and just spent time with you. It's almost impossible for a child to say, you're just here because you're volunteering with your company or you're made to do it. Now, the adults, different story. The expectations are all over the place. And you kind of come at it from two sides, right? You've got those that come in very, very confident that I have everything. I am going to impart all my wisdom on this child. He will be a mini-me, and we're going to go from there. And what do you mean you don't like that? Or what do you mean you don't want to go out for sushi?
Right.
And we have to deal with that. And the other is the person who's completely paranoid. They're going to hate me. They're going to think my job's boring. I don't want to say anything to offend them. And then running beneath all of this is this really serious undertone, and you had mentioned it about trust issues. We have so much information these days from scientific studies about trauma. Like I have a 4.5-year-old, and when he gets a boo-boo, that 2 minutes of trauma on my child's face ruins me. Imagine if a child grows up for the first 12 years of their life with their fight or flight syndrome turned on all the time. All the time. There's a gunshot in the alley. There's a dog barking right in front. You don't know if it's safe or not. You're outside. You can't find your mom. There's a million things. You're surrounded oftentimes by frustrated energy. So you're in fight or flight mode all the time. So imagine that boo-boo moment spread out over 12 years. Who would you trust?
Right, exactly.
Exactly. There are so many good programs in Baltimore City and around the state that are site-based, where you go and you do things and you learn things. Big Brothers Big Sisters doesn't want to interfere with any of that. As a matter of fact, we'd love to get more adults connected to other programs by being a mentor. But at the end of the day, the reason I say mentoring is going to change our city, change our state, change the way we think about young people is you've got one nonprofit organization embodied in you, focused on one child, and be it getting them to try that after-school program, being there their first day of Little League when they're terrified to put themselves out there, or better yet, they're at home, they get a phone call from a kid they haven't seen in a long time that says, you got to do me a favor. I just want you to hold this and wait for me in that alley. You owe me. We're boys. We grew up together. Who do they call? Who do they call?
Right.
Most of our kids will tell us they do not have, particularly men, male boys, a male role model that they can call in that kind of life-changing experience that they trust.
Well, that leads me to talking about some major changes that you guys experienced this spring.
Right. I've been kind of thinking of words for this, profound, unprecedented, so at this point, I think everybody knows April was, a pretty rough patch for us in Baltimore. I don't believe for a second that it changed the paradigm of anything. I think it just made people aware.
Illuminated.
That's a great word. It illuminated, shocked, spurred into action. We're such a wonderful planet of people that react to things, but something was so interesting about this. We didn't want to put out the call after the unrest about mentors. We didn't want to look like we were trying to capitalize on the situation. But our staff wanted to be out there. We have a lot of young staff. They put on their Big Brother shirts and they went out to a lot of the sites and were helping clean, and they brought cards. And if people approached them in droves. They were coming up saying, and you know what it was? You started the interview by talking about people know about us.
Yeah.
It's in their heads, but it's that affirmative action. It's a movement. It's what are they going to do? They came up and said, I've been thinking about this, and I'm just going to do it. Or we got all these calls. That application's been sitting on my desk. can you get me an interview now? Like, can I come in now? And it was a sense of urgency, and it was a sense of volume. And then we said, okay, well, we're going to put this out there. So we started putting out the numbers. We had hundreds of kids on our wait list, which numbers about 1,000.
Yeah.
You know, over 600 or 700 just in Baltimore City. And they live so the kids that were in that school that didn't run out, the young people that were in the row houses that didn't come out, a lot of them were on our wait list. And the parents had been waiting months. And we had this challenge about being able to find people willing to commit quickly enough.
Well, I remember you telling me when I saw you at an event not long after that the number of phone calls and inquiries you had. So tell me that number in comparison to your history.
So the month of the riots to the end of June, which is the end of our year, we had almost 1,500 inquiries, which is an entire year's worth more rolled into really about 2 months. Of people coming to us on their own, companies calling us saying, you know, because we were thinking people are going to come back and say, I think we got to pull back for a bit. You know, our employees maybe don't know exactly what they want to do, but the response was, we don't want to do a one-day project. Mm-hmm. You know, what can we get involved in that we can see change, that we can get invested in, and we want to go to the neighborhoods, we want to work with older kids. No, nobody comes to us for that generally.
Right.
You know, can I mentor a teenager that lives in West Baltimore? And these aren't, you know, there's a danger to say, cynically, it's an eruption of emotion, everybody's reaching out. We are not the short play. You know, I am not so emotionally charged, I'm gonna come in and go through a month-long process so I can spend the next couple years of my life developing a trusting bond with one young person and their family and ultimately their community.
Right.
So 1,500 inquiries. In the last month of the year, we made 70 matches. And I told you about the process. It's fairly involved. It's a challenge, but we can't do it. We're not going to sacrifice safety.
Has there been good follow-up? You know, again, I would imagine there are a lot of people impulsively calling, and then they don't really follow up. I mean, what's that? Right. How's that been?
Our conversion rate generally from meeting you at Artscape and having you sign up, you know, on a clipboard to getting you matched is about 17%. Which, believe it or not, it's close to the national average because it is a commitment, and it just takes a while to get over that perception.
Now, what about since this spring?
Yeah, we're seeing over 30%. But that's the thing. It's the volume, but it's the urgency. You know, even before the riots, there had been a call for men because people may remember there'd been an uptick in violence. There was a lot going on in the Canton, Highlandtown area. We'd been seeing some real growing rifts between teenagers and community members. Mm-hmm. And so we had gone out and gotten some grant funding, and people said, well, why do you want to focus on Highlandtown? You know, why not go to some of these neighborhoods we're hearing about? Because that's where everybody lives. You've got desperately poor children, deserving families, and then we've got all of these folks that are being hired to work in companies. You know, some of our partners like Under Armour and others, that's where people are living. So you could go to the other side of Patterson Park where you play football on weekends, maybe hang out.
Right.
You can go north of the park and you can mentor a child. So we were seeing an uptick, and then the dam burst. And what's been so, I say, profound, they're talking about this around the country. And we've had a real challenge. Mentoring tends to be an enhancement. It's, let's add a mentoring component, or let's throw in mentoring. Now it's being treated, I think, with a sense of it's an essential tool to build community. Yeah. I mean, we're bringing people together, and we're doing it one match at a time.